Tension in Orario was rising as different groups prepared for an urgent operation. Hythe, firm and determined, reacted to the news that Allied members had been defeated and saw this as a reason to act without hesitation. For her, punishing those who dared to mess with the goddess and rescuing the Loki family were equally necessary tasks. Her decisive stance influenced the healers and herbalists around her, who kept pace without question. During the preparations, Hythe encountered Jern, whose concern was evident. He admitted his inability to fight like the others and feared he wouldn't be able to keep up with the group. Even before he could clearly express his anguish, Hythe understood what he wanted: Belle's protection. It was a silent but profound request, which he answered naturally, even though the butler tried to hide the reason. His shame only reinforced the sense of urgency that gripped everyone. Meanwhile, inside the host of fertility, the Gulliver brothers worked together to restore the weapons needed for the mission. The tavern, normally chaotic, was transformed into a small military training center. Hurried conversations, information about the city's mobilization, and comments about Hadine's plan revealed a grand and risky operation. The objective was simple: race to the 60th floor, rescue the trapped adventurers, and return before chaos spread across the surface. The secret needed to be kept at all costs, as the fall of the Loki Familia could trigger repercussions comparable to the greatest tragedies in Orario's history. Meanwhile, figures like Alan, Anya, Chloe, and Lenoir added a chaotic and comical tone to the atmosphere. Between fights, provocations, and family disputes, everyone ended up involved in the gravity of the mission, each contributing in their own way. Even reluctantly, they ended up accepting their responsibilities, driven both by duty and by the personal bonds that linked them to each other. While Hythe gathered his healers and assumed his role in the operation, other parts of the city also began to move. Tension spread silently through Orario, fueled by rumors of the supposed annihilation of the Loki Familia, a disaster that needed to be hidden at all costs. Thus, Ganesha, the Guild, and various independent groups agreed to cooperate with Hadine, even disagreeing with his decisions. The priority was to prevent panic and stop the problem from spreading beyond the city walls. In parallel, the hostess of fertility had been transformed into an improvised preparation center. The Pallum siblings, skilled artisans, restored equipment and reinforced weapons, working almost mechanically, as if they understood the gravity of the mission without needing to exchange many words. Alan's presence, always tense, only increased the sense of urgency, especially when his sister Anya appeared announcing that she would also participate in the operation. Even causing chaos and arguments, she carried an official order, which forced Alan to accept the situation. Amid provocations, fights, and the inevitable mess of that peculiar family, it was clear that everyone, even the most reluctant, was willing to act. Personal tensions paled in comparison to the crisis. Seer, aware of the gravity of what was about to happen, also unexpectedly became involved, handing Mia a shield letter and asking her to go on a mission herself, proof that even those who usually remained on the sidelines were being pulled into the center of the conflict. At the same time, preparations extended to other groups of adventurers. The Amazons who once fought for Ishtar gathered before Babel, ready to act under Hadine's orders. Even coming from disbanded factions, they still carried a vibrant fighting spirit and were ready to protect the city. Harrowheim also appeared, receiving her own role as part of the Sword, reinforcing that the operation was not only large, it was one of the most serious Orario had ever organized. The entire city, each in its own way, moved as part of a huge and urgent machine, driven by the fear of an even greater disaster. While different groups stirred throughout the city, a silent yet powerful movement was taking shape. The Guild, the families involved, and all who had received their directives were preparing for a swift and decisive advance. The objective was clear: to descend into the depths, rescue those who had been defeated, and prevent the tragedy of the Loki Familia from spreading like a political disaster. Inside the tavern, chaos transformed into determination. Even with the provocations, fights, and arguments typical of that group, everyone ended up aligning themselves with the same purpose. The arrival of the shield and sword cards solidified everyone's role, and even Mia, always resistant, agreed to participate, assuming her responsibility with an almost maternal pragmatism. At the same time, outside, other fronts were organizing with the same urgency. The Amazons, led by Isa, gathered efficiently, ready to act as the initial line of defense. Each of them carried in their bodies and voices the mark of past battles, transforming the anxiety of the mission into raw energy. Harrowheim, positioned as one of the main forces, confirmed what everyone already knew: that operation would bring together fighters from different factions, united only by the need to avoid a greater collapse. Thus, amidst silent preparations, noisy fights, urgent strategies, and commitments made almost by force, the city set itself in motion. The rescue operation ceased to be just a plan and became a real mobilization, an unlikely combination of warriors, artisans, healers, magicians, and even tavern employees, all aware that, if they failed, the consequences would extend beyond the dungeon and reach the outside world. It was the beginning of a movement that could no longer be contained, a heterogeneous, unexpected, but determined force, about to descend into the underworld to try to reverse a disaster that threatened all of Ororio.